So, real-world data with Wegovy. Why exactly is this important? You see, when we look at the data from our randomized controlled trials, which are very rigorous, there's a lot of time, effort, and money that are put into them, they're pretty good at showing us and giving us some really good data around the expectations with the medication. So what kind of result we can expect to see, what kind of side effects there might be, and that sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with them in that perspective of things. And in fact, when we looked at the results from the Step 1 trial, what we saw with Wegovy at a dose of 2.4 milligrams once per week is that the individuals that were taken and given it over a 68-week period ended up losing almost 15% of their baseline weight. So yes, there is a lot of great information that we can get from these randomized controlled trials, but they do have some problems. You see, with these clinical and controlled trials, they are designed with a great deal of rigor in order to create the ideal environment so that we can isolate the specific effects of a medication. As well, we can increase the chance of having a really successful result or get the maximum possible result we expect to see with a medication. Now, we want to isolate the effects of a drug so that after the study is complete, we can say with pretty darn good confidence that this result that was seen in the study was due to this medication. This was literally the only thing that was different between the two groups. One got placebo, one got the drug. The group that got the drug got this result, so that was the effect that we saw. As well, a drug company has likely invested hundreds of millions of dollars into a said drug at this point in time, and therefore they want to see the maximum and best possible result that they can get with their medication compared to a placebo or another medication that's already on the market. Now again, all of this is fine and dandy, but this environment that they create in the study is very unlikely to be seen in the real world. Most people aren't going to be working with researchers and clinicians that are specifically focused and have a lot of experience in a specific area. They're more likely just to be going to their family doctor and not be tied to, a clinician like myself, which wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you want some help on your weight management journey, check out the links down below. So it's just regular Joes going to regular Joe doctors, and those two working together to see what kind of result they can get with these medications and not having all the special supports and specializations and extra knowledge that the clinicians in the randomized controlled trial may have had. And so that means in, say, the Step 1 trial with Wegovy, we saw about a 15% weight loss from baseline. We're probably going to get, in real life situation, less than 15% weight loss from baseline. And this is going to be for a majority of people. They're just not going to get as good of a result that we saw in the randomized controlled trial. And yes, there is going to be people who do better than the results that we saw in the randomized controlled trial. These people are the exception and not the average. And hey, if you're enjoying my content and you want to learn more about how to manage your weight with or without medication, then you should definitely hit that subscribe button down below. As well, turn on the notifications so that you never miss out when I put out another video. As well, check out the OG members membership side of my YouTube channel, where every single month at the end of the month I do an exclusive YouTube live with my OG members. We break down a variety of topics in obesity medicine. As well, I answer all of your questions, comments, and concerns in real time, so be sure to sign up today and check it out. And so now that we have this knowledge that real life is going to be different than that ideal trial environment, what exactly are the results that we're currently seeing in real life practice with Wegovy? Well, I am so glad you asked, because I of course have a study to share. In this study, the authors completed a retrospective chart review. So basically what that means is they went back in time, they found a subset of people that had obesity that were on Wegovy, and they followed them over the time course of 6 months to see what kind of results they had over that 6-month period in terms of weight loss. So some of the specifics, they looked at individuals that had obesity or had overweight, so BMI greater than 27, and some weight-related comorbidities such as hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, etc. And they were prescribed semaglutide, aka Wegovy, up to a dose of 2.4 milligrams once per week. So they were really trying to isolate the individuals that were taking actual Wegovy and not taking Ozempic and using it for diabetes management. And with that, they were able to track down about 343 participants. A majority of them were female. The average BMI was about 37.9. and their average weight was about 106.8 kilos or approximately 235 pounds. And so from the inception of when they first got started on the medication to over a 6-month period later, what they found is that on average, the participants in this study lost about 10% of their baseline weight, which came out to be about 10.5 kilos or about 23-ish or so pounds being lost. The other really cool thing they did in this study is they looked at other health-related factors such as blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar levels, and they saw improvements in all of those areas. So now to give you some context and comparison, because the Step 1 trial, over a period of 68 weeks, so greater than a total year, there was a loss of approximately 15% from baseline. This study was only over a 6-month period, so we have to kind of look at the different numbers and what they got in the Step 1 trial in that shorter time frame or period. And from the Step 1 randomized controlled trial, at 7 months, because they didn't do a follow-up at 6 months, instead it was done at 7 months, the majority of participants had lost approximately 12% of their weight from baseline. And in our current real-life data, we saw approximately a 10% loss from baseline over a 6-month period. Now, if the authors had extended their search period an extra month and had gone for 7 months, we might have seen further losses with our study participants. However, it probably wouldn't have quite have been 12% from baseline. Therefore, when we look at Wegovy in terms of real-life data, it looks like it's still pretty darn good, but not quite as good as what we had seen within the randomized controlled trial. And if we look at some of the other data that the authors of this study pulled out, we can see here that yes, the average was about 10% loss from baseline, but there was still some people, about 20% in fact, that were able to lose greater than 15% of their baseline weight in that 6-month period from being on Wegovy. So while the average data was maybe not as good as what we saw in the randomized controlled trial, there was still those exceptional one-off outlier people that did get quite a bit of weight loss even though they were in real life. And unfortunately, we don't have any specifics as to, what kind of diet plan or what have you that they were following. It's really impossible to know because this was a retrospective chart review, and so the authors really had no control. It was looking back in time, and so that data and information is kind of unknown. And hey, if you want some help on your weight management journey, check out the link below where you can download my 7-day food journal. This journal isn't just about tracking the food that you eat, it's also about tracking your emotions, your feelings before, after meal, and that sort of thing, which in many cases can actually be more important than the actual food tracking itself. If you can get a better understanding of how you're feeling before and after a meal, you can make more concrete and better changes to your dietary patterns to help you to better manage your overall hunger, to prevent overeating, but also identify and study your patterns of emotional eating and start to work your way through them so that you can develop a better relationship with food. So if you think that's something that you need, well, you should definitely check out the link below. Now, some of the things that I really liked about this trial is that, it was just Joe Blows going to regular Joe doctors. It was just regular patients working with their standard family physician. It wasn't patients that were working with a specific specialist, such as myself, that works in obesity management. This was as close to real life data that we could possibly get. And the authors also looked at some other health markers outside of just weight loss, which in my opinion, the other health markers give us a heck of a lot more data about a person's health status. And if we're seeing improvements in those areas, it's a good indication that not only can Wegovy in a real life population help with weight management, but it's indeed improving an individual's health. And despite this being real world data, we still got some pretty solid, decent results. Not quite as good as what we saw in the randomized controlled trial, such as the Step 1 trial with Wegovy, but nonetheless, it was some good quality data and some good solid results. And of course, there is limitations. The first one being that they only looked at a 6-month period. It would have been great if they would have done a full 12 months and gave us a bit more perspective and a bit more of a better comparison to the randomized controlled trial. As well, this was an observational looking back in time study, so there's a lot of variables that the authors weren't able to modify and change and tweak. It was a lot out of their hands, and so there may have been a lot of confounders that affected these overall results. And the other big problem with this study was that it was a pretty small group of people, only about 343, so it wasn't really going to be a looking at and a good representation of our total population. but it gives us a starting point, and certainly more data and research is needed. Nonetheless, some very good results. So even if you don't have access to a specialized weight center and you're only working with your family doctor and utilizing Wegovy for your weight management efforts, there's a good chance you're still going to get some pretty decent results. So that is it, and that is all, my friends. Some real life data with Wegovy. It's very exciting now that we've got a couple of years under our belt with these medications being on the market. I'll be interested in seeing some future research and future data and what it tells us about how well these medications are working and some of the other things that we're kind of looking at. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below as well. Share and like my video, pass it along to anybody that you think might get some benefit from it. And of course, don't forget to sign up for the OG members membership side of my YouTube channel, where you get to do an exclusive live with myself every single month. You can bring your questions, comments, concerns, and I will answer them in real time. As well, I'll be covering a number of exclusive topics for the OG members only. And of course, check me out on all my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan. We're on the Tick, the Talk, the Gram, you name it, we are out there. And until next time, my friends, always remember that it's going to be those small tweaks that lead to those massive peaks.